Hey everyone, I am Robin the Copy Bitch. This is Stewie, my sidekick sloth, and today we are going to talk about Grammarly for Google Docs. I'm going to turn it over to myself on Zoom so you can see my screen. And we're back. We're talking about how to use Grammarly in Google Docs. So again, I'm a freelance copywriter. I do a lot of writing, a lot of blog posts, a lot of white papers, a lot of email copy, things like that. I always draft in Word to begin with, and I use the spell check function in Word, even though I don't feel it's as strong as something like Grammarly, but I do that for my initial pass as I'm drafting. Now, for the record, you can use Grammarly within Word docs. You can use it within Outlook and Gmail as well. I have those functions. I have Grammarly turned off for that because I prefer doing my drafting in Microsoft Word and doing all my editing as much as possible in there, getting it to a certain point. And then what I do is I go to Google Docs and I upload my Word document, and then I use Grammarly to help bring it over the finish line by really polishing and fine-tuning my prose. So in order to do that, that's what the purpose of this video is. I'm going to assume that you already have the Grammarly for Chrome extension plugged into your computer. I'm on a laptop right now. If you don't, it's very easy to do. Just Google Grammarly for Chrome and it'll bring you to the Grammarly site. You can add the Chrome extension. It's free to do so. This will walk you through how to do that. And once it's done, it'll appear here, this little circle with the little green circle with the G in it. Okay, and it says Grammarly has access to the site. And this is kind of what you can click into if you want to get to your account. So another caveat is I do have the premium version, the paid version of Grammarly, but this is a recent development. I actually used the free version for quite a long time and found that that was adequate enough, I thought, to capture the catastrophic edits, as I call them, those major typos, grammar issues, punctuation. And it did a good job of catching that. But then it always said like, hey, there are 37 more suggestions that you should check out. And I was always kind of curious as to whether those suggestions would improve my writing. And so I pulled the trigger a few months ago and did the premium account and really liked the suggestions that Grammarly was giving me. Not all of them, and it's not perfect. And that's the thing you have to remember about artificial intelligence, which is basically what Grammarly is. It's AI. You still need that human oversight and that touch, but it's a great assistant. I always kind of use the analogy of the sous chef. So you still need the chef to kind of bring the dish to life and to serve the customer or the client, but the sous chef can really help you do some of that heavy lifting and the chopping and, you know, monotonous work of like proofreading and making sure everything is in good shape. So just think of it that way. We still need humans, we still need human writers, at least as I'm recording this in 2023. I will get off my soapbox now. So once you have the Grammarly Chrome extension installed, I'm going to my Google Doc now, which I already have uploaded to Google Docs. So you can see how the Grammarly tool works. So what'll happen is it'll show up here in the lower right-hand corner, and I can open Grammarly Go, which is, I believe, in beta right now. I don't usually use that. The red circle with the number in it is the number of what I call catastrophic edits. That's what you'll actually see if you have the free version. You'll see the red circle with the number of corrections. And what you do is you click on it and it'll bring you to, it'll highlight within the document with a red underline. Right now, this is just saying 1. I did a little bit of editing already on this document just so I wasn't, yeah, right here. And it's saying that I can get rid of the now. Oh no, it's saying to add a comma. And now let's jump to the last 3 years, which, you know what, I actually agree with. So since I agree with it, I can click on it to add the comma, or if I disagree with it, I can dismiss. So see this, see how it's highlighted? The dismiss is probably highlighted better. You probably can see that better. So I could dismiss it, or I could go here, or I could look for more information in here, but I'm going to accept that. And there you go. It puts the comma in automatically. So, and then it recalculates down here as to what the mistakes are. So I've gone through the catastrophic edits, and now I'm going to look at some of the suggestions that Grammarly has, and it has 21 suggestions. So I'm going to click into this. And basically you have 4 categories that it goes through. It looks at correctness, which improves spelling, grammar, and punctuation. It has clarity, which helps make your writing easier to understand. It has engagement, helps make your writing more interesting and effective. And it has delivery, helps you make the right impression on your reader. Now, here's the thing. Different audiences are going to require different types of writing. You might have a much more formal audience where you have to sound, again, more formal, or you might have a more casual audience where it's okay to use contractions and start sentences with and or but, or end sentences with prepositions, which is the type of writing I do as a copywriter. So you can train Grammarly as to the type of audiences you're writing for. And you can do that by going into your Grammarly account if you have the paid version. This only applies if you have the premium edition. So I can go into my Grammarly account, which I already have open, and you go to the customize area, and then you can go to your personal dictionary, and this is the place where you can add words that you don't want Grammarly to flag. So as a good example, I do a lot of writing for a urology practice. So, and they also have urogynecologists on staff. So one of the phrases, urogyn, urogynecologic, urogynes, I was tired of Grammarly always flagging those words. So I'm like, I'm just going to add that to my personal dictionary. I also do some writing for a beauty education company. So they talk about microblading and electrology and a lashologist, again, words that Grammarly doesn't have in its dictionary, but I can add it to mine. So it'll stop flagging. So you can train it for your purposes, and you can add and detract. Like, let's say, I stop working with urogynecologists at some point and I want to remove that. I can just hit the trash. And if I want to add a new word, I can do that here. And you can do that with swear words. I've done that before when I've been writing, humor column or something like that. And I have some cuss words in there that I don't want it flagging. I might put that in there. Language is where you can tell it your primary language and your dialect. Writing preferences, this is a place where you can toggle things on and off very easily. So if you want to make sure your writing sounds more confident, if you want to, here's a good example where avoid starting sentences with conjunctions in academic writing. So starting with but or and you can click into an example. I have no problem starting sentences with but or and, so that's why I turned it off. That's very common in my world as a freelance copywriter. We want to sound casual. But this is where you can kind of, customize it to your need. Like the Oxford comma is a great one. AP doesn't abide by the Oxford comma. I love the Oxford comma. That's the comma that shows, here's a great example. I like classical music, rock, and jazz. I would always, 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 always put a comma after the second item. So I would put the comma in after rock. So you can turn that on or off depending on your needs and the style guidelines that maybe your client has, or your employer, or your academic institution. Okay, so this is the place where you can customize it. And you can dig into more features here. I haven't really done a lot with this, but let's go back to the document. So now I've gone through the catastrophic edits, those edits in red, and now we're going to go dig into Grammarly's suggestions. And that's the key word you have to remember. These are suggestions. I don't recommend just going through and accepting everything, because you'll end up with kind of a mess and there will be things that won't make sense, because occasionally Grammarly misses the mark, and that's because it's a tool, and it's a great tool, but it's not a flawless tool. There's no such thing as a flawless tool or a flawless human. So we still need that collaboration between the humans and the AI to get things right. So what I do is I will just go through the whole document, start, top to bottom, I kind of let Grammarly lead the way. I just go through one by one, and that might sound a little tedious, and it can be, but especially, I'm a professional writer, so I need, this is my product that I deliver to clients. So I need to take that extra time to make sure things are as polished and sound as good and clear and concise and engaging as possible. So what I'll do is I'll just go through one by one and see what the suggestions are. So this one is suggesting conciseness. Let me see if I can increase this so you can see this a little bit better. Go to 90%. Actually, you know what? I might go back down to 75. I think I'll be able to still see it. But it's flagging See where it's highlighted here, the do in this phrase? Normally, I would suggest this, but this is actually my keyword phrase that I'm focusing on. How much do freelance copywriters make is the keyword phrase I'm focusing on, which is why it's also in the title. So in this instance, I'm actually going to say, no, Grammarly, I disagree, because I need that to be an exact phrase, at least for my search engine optimization purposes. So this is a good example where I disagree. So I'm just going to go dismiss, and I'll go, okay. So now it brings me to the next one. Grammarly is really good at flagging, almost to a fault, words that it feels are overused, like important, difficult, and it will often suggest different synonyms. And you know what? Throughout a document, if I know I've used the word important or difficult in other places, it's like, okay, let's mix it up. But I don't want to remove all the difficults and then put in challenging instead, because it kind of is the same problem. So it's a judgment call. I see what makes sense. So my sentence is, overall, it's helpful info as long as it doesn't send people spiraling into comparison game, talking openly, kindly, and calmly about difficult subjects. So I might go with challenging here. It's not so much that they're complex, it's challenging, difficult. So I will go with challenging and accept that. It does it automatically. And now it's saying, you know what, your sentence may be unclear or hard to follow. Consider rephrasing. So now this is what it's suggesting. Talking openly, kindly, and calmly about challenging subjects like money, death, and dying, another favorite topic of mine, is for the best, methinks. And you know what? It's true. I don't need that extra and there. So it's saying get rid of that. I'll get rid of that. That's fine. I'm going to say no to that one because... So this is, yeah. Dismiss that one. So here's a good example. This comes up almost all the time in my documents anyway, about the unclear antecedent. So it's often saying that when I start a sentence with this, it doesn't know what I'm referring to. And that's, I think, a good example between AI and a human. A human reading this is going to understand the context of what came before, and it's going to be able to remember that. So it understands, I think most humans, if not all, are going to understand what this is referring to, whereas the AI doesn't. So this is a great example. I can't tell you how many times this comes up as flagged, and I just about every time just dismiss it, because it's like, I know that the human reading this is going to understand, even if the AI doesn't, just because of the way it's been programmed. Yeah, sometimes I put the ofs in and they're unneeded. Okay, we'll go with somehow here. Okay, so there you go. So then, whoops, there's one more that I missed. I'll accept that. Now, as you can see, there's a check mark down here. Everything's clear and polished. And what's kind of cute is every time you finish, it has a nice little saying. It kind of cheers you on, but then you can close out of it. And now you know that you have a probably fairly polished article, blog post, whatever it is you're doing. I say fairly polished because what I always do is I then will now download this to Word, which I can do here in Google Docs, and download it to a Word doc. And I proofread again. And sometimes just making that shift from Google Docs to back to Word, just it's just not exact in terms of the font style and everything like that. My eyes can sometimes catch little things, or sometimes when you're editing, you introduce other errors into the copy. So I always give it another final proofread in Word before delivering it to the client. And I usually have to deliver the copy as a Word doc anyway, so that's my final step. So that's how I go through it. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is the plagiarism checker. So what you can do is, I just did Control A there. I'm copying this entire document. So I'm hitting copy. I'm going to go back to, I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go down here and open my Grammarly. So that's how I get to it. And Actually, no, you know what I'm going to do? Cancel that. I'm going to go click out of that. I'm going to go here to Grammarly, and I'm going to go to new document. See this down there in the lower left-hand corner? And I'm just going to plunk that copy I copied. Well, this is another way you can do it too. If you don't want to work in Google Docs, you can just do this. And I'm going to plunk the copy here. And this is where you can now set goals as to what you're trying to do. Like, I want it to be casual, I want it to be creative, my intent. So you can, do that. It's going to give you an overall score, which can be nice. So I have a 99 overall score, which is good. But what you can do is you can do the plagiarism checker. So that's always good. Sometimes if you're writing, you can have unintentional plagiarism because maybe you forgot to put quotes around a section of text that you took as you were doing your researching, or who knows, or if you are an editor and you're in charge of reviewing content, you can put this into the plagiarism checker in Grammarly and see what happens. I think I said this is only available to premium users, and I think that's the case, but don't quote me on that. This might be open to, I'm not sure. See if I can find that out before I publish this video, but plagiarism came back as clean. I mean, this is an original document, so obviously it would. If it weren't clean, it would come back with all sorts of red lines telling you where to look. It'll even include sources if it found copy it thinks was taken from another site. So that's a way to check, but that's another option as you're using Grammarly. So there you have it. Grammarly for Google Docs. And that's how I use it. If you have questions, by all means, leave it in the comments. But now I'm going to throw it back to myself and Stewie. And there you have it, Grammarly for Google Docs. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I am Robin the Copy Bitch. This is Stewie, my sidekick sloth. And we'll see you next time. Bye!